that we're able to do this, and I'm hoping that at the end of the session, we would not only have identified certain issues, but also maybe propose certain action points with which we'll be able to transform the economy of our continent.
Welcome to a live broadcast of the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Forum 2019. We're live now and we're broadcasting the plenary session on the role of healthcare in economic transformation and the critical role of quality, affordable, and accessible healthcare. This panel is being moderated by Dr. Awele Elumelu, Tony Elumelu Foundation Trustee and Founder CEO, Avon Medical. Speakers on this panel include the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Her Excellency, Mrs. Aisha Buhari. Also on the panel is Her Excellency, Mayor Jana Kaba Konde, the First Lady of the Republic of Guinea. Also on the panel is Her Excellency, Mayor Keita Aminata Mega, the First Lady of Mali. Dr. Tedros Adhanom is the DG, World Health Organization, and he's also on the panel. Also on the panel is the Vice President, International Committee of the Red Cross, Dr. Gilles Carbonaire.
Your Excellencies, delegates, friends and colleagues, especially entrepreneurs. First of all, I would like to express how honored I am to join you today. But I will start with a story of what happened yesterday. Maybe some of you are following the news. Yesterday, up to 150 migrants died in a shipwreck off the coast of Libya. And you can imagine how many of them would be Africans from our continent. All of them. And this year alone, we're just 7 months into the year, more than 600 people have died crossing. And you know what the reason is. And that actually gave me hope that this kind of intervention to support startups, our youth, will address the root cause of the problem. Because one of the root causes of the problem is finding opportunities. That's why people are migrating and losing their lives, like what we have witnessed yesterday. That's a sad story. But if we can do in large scale something like this, like what TEF is doing, I think we can address the root cause of the problem. We can keep our youth here in their continent.
The First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is represented by Dr. Meiro Almakura, wife of the former governor of Nasarawa State. Also on the panel is Walimat Sarr, the Regional Director, UN Women, West and Central African Region. And again, they will be speaking on the role of healthcare in economic transformation.
The work the foundation does is nothing short of incredible. The best investments are in human capital, especially young people, and that's exactly what the foundation does. At the same time, when the rest of the world is grappling with the challenges of aging populations, Africa has the world's youngest population. The 10 countries with the youngest populations are all in this continent. And by 2025, the number of people in Africa aged between 15 and 25 will be double. This is an incredible opportunity and a significant challenge too. With the right investments Africa's young people will be the engine of an incredible transformation for this continent. But if we miss the opportunity, we will exacerbate the problems of poverty and inequality that hold Africa back today. I believe that the best investment in our young people and in the future of Africa is health. Health is the foundation for the dynamic and prosperous Africa we all want to see. Health enables people to learn and earn, to start businesses and to thrive. Health creates jobs, it drives productivity, it stimulates inclusive growth, and it protects economies from the impacts of outbreaks and other emergencies. And yet today, access to quality essential health services is lower in Africa than any other region. Today, 114 million people in Africa live in poverty because of health care costs. These gaps not only imperil the health of millions of people, they also imperil Africa's growth and prosperity. It's an outrage that any family has to choose between buying medicine and buying food, between poverty and illness. And that's why WHO's top priority is universal health coverage. Ultimately, universal health coverage is not just a moral imperative, it's an economic imperative. There is no getting away from the fact that domestic public financing is the bedrock of universal health coverage. No country has ever achieved UHC by relying mainly on voluntary private funding. But I have always said that we cannot achieve universal health coverage or the Sustainable Development Goals without the private sector. More than half of health services in Africa are already delivered by private providers. The private sector is also an incubator of innovation. One of the main recommendations of the WHO Africa Health Forum in Cape Verde earlier this year was that to meet the challenge and opportunity of universal health coverage in Africa, we will need new ideas, new products, new ways of delivering services, and new ways of financing health. But too often, great ideas do not have the impact they deserve because they lack scale and sustainability. That's why the Tony Elumelu Foundation is so important. The seed capital it provides is a vital investment in getting new ideas off the ground. Innovation is also a priority for WHO. Together, we can make sure that your investments have an even greater impact than they already do. Excellencies, my brothers and sisters, I believe there are three key challenges for Africa on the road to universal health coverage. These are my asks for African leaders. First, harness the power of health for economic growth. Countries that invest in building resilient health systems based on strong primary health care make an investment that will pay a rich dividend for decades to come. Second, harness the power of innovation. Africa's young and dynamic population is fertile ground for new ideas that can change the face of this continent. We must invest in those ideas. Third and final, harness the power of public-private partnerships with strong national leadership and robust regulation. The private sector can and must play a vital role in delivering quality health services and products. Ultimately, investing in health is exactly that, an investment in the healthier, safer, and more prosperous Africa we all want. I thank you.
So thank you very much, Dr. Tedros. So indeed, he has given us a bit of a picture of what we have in Africa, and I think I'll pick on one thing which he said, where he talked about primary health care and investing in primary health care. And that takes me very nicely to my next panelist, Her Excellency, representing the First Lady of Nigeria, because I want to ask you about maternal and child health care. And we know this is really the basis for primary health care. So basically, all I want you to help us to understand is the challenges we face in primary health care. We know that our First Lady This is something she takes very important. Just a few months ago, she launched the Adamawa Medical Center, for which our founder was invited and he attended. And we also know that through her foundation, she also sponsors a lot of outreaches. So we'll be very happy if you could shed some more light on the challenges we face in child and maternal issues, and maybe even some of the ways in which we're trying to find solutions for this, because we know that to be able to achieve this, it will lead to the economic transformation that we're looking for.
Your Excellencies, wife of President here present, distinguished panelists, our distinguished African entrepreneurs. I'm here to represent the wife of the President who would have loved to be here, but due to some issues, she wasn't able to be here. And this is something she holds so passionately: child, women, youth, and empowering them. Pregnancy, as we all know, it's a very risky time for women and the time surrounding it. Every year, about 9.2 million Nigerian women and girls get pregnant. Out of this 9.2, every minute we lost, every 13 minutes we lost, means in every day we lost 109 women. This number is so alarming, and we really need to do something about it. That is why the wife of the President has taken it so passionately. She has a clinic for women and children in Daura before the one she did in Yola, just to alleviate the poverty, the problems that women face during pregnancy and childbirth. And it has gone a long way in alleviating those issues. Women, like we all know, we are the backbones of the society. If we get it right with the women folks, I think we are the better for it in the African continent. So we have to go all out to help the women folks, because the things that government should do, policies should be enhanced, very strong policies that will be able to help the women and the child in the health sector. Like, we should empower women, because like I said, women, when we get it right, things go right for everybody. We should try as much as we can, the government, to eradicate poverty completely. Extreme poverty, I mean. And we should try, the government should also try to make a policy where the primary basic education is very, very necessary. Because once the women are educated up to primary school, they will be able to know when to go to their antenatals, what to do to the babies, what to do to themselves to be able to curtail some illnesses like malaria, typhoid, cholera. They will be able to know when to go to take their vaccines. Their children should be vaccinated against all these killer diseases, which are preventable if the vaccines are taken. And we should try, the government should try as much as they can to enhance medical care for people that have HIV/AIDS, because that is one part that I think the government are not doing very, very well in. If the government try to do this, the child mortality rate will drastically reduce in our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So indeed, she's just only told us some more, as we know, about the importance of reduction of child mortality and maternal mortality. She mentioned something about policies. We will come to that. But before we go to that, I'd like to address Her Excellency, the First Lady of the Republic of Guinea, Madame Jene Conde, still along the lines of healthcare, because we've talked about child mortality, we've talked about maternal mortality, and in a related fashion, I'd like her to take the next question. She's a lady who has a foundation that has a significant commitment to improving maternal and child health and reducing maternal and infant mortality. And also, this her foundation, which is actually called PROSME Foundation, is committed to reducing HIV and AIDS mortality in Guinea. So, if you would, Your Excellency, I would appreciate it if you could please share with us what you found in terms of the correlation between what you do for sexual and reproductive health, especially in the HIV and AIDS area, and how it impacts economic growth.
Allô. Merci, madame. Bonjour à tous. Permettez-moi, avant de rentrer dans le vif du sujet, de remercier la Fondation Tonu et le MULU de m'avoir invité à m'exprimer devant cette auguste assemblée. C'est vrai qu'on ne peut pas être insensible à la situation générale de la jeunesse en Afrique. Ce qui s'est passé récemment, c'est dans les actualités. Des jeunes vaillants qui vont mourir en mer est inadmissible. Je salue donc du fond du cœur la Fondation d'avoir donné l'espoir et l'opportunité aux jeunes Africains de créer une activité génératrice de revenus et de se mettre à leur propre compte. C'est vrai que l'Afrique est devenue une sorte de dépotoir. Nous avons des difficultés, certes. Il y a un penseur qui l'a dit, que le niveau de développement d'un pays se mesure à deux choses. C'est l'éducation et la santé. Et c'est vrai qu'en Afrique, ces deux volets très importants laissent à désirer. Parlant donc de la mortalité maternelle infantile et de la transmission, j'espère avoir bien compris la question. En Guinée, dès l'avènement de la Troisième République, j'ai donc accompagné le président pour créer une association de type fondation, PROSMI, qui veut dire protection maternelle et infantile, protection sociale maternelle et infantile. Pourquoi cela? Parce que dans les pays de la CEDEAO, la Guinée était le pays où il y avait le plus de décès maternels et infantiles. Alors, madame, excusez-moi, vous pourrez me reprendre, madame Elumelu, la question précise sur laquelle je devais intervenir.
For the sake of those who don't speak French, I'll just sort of summarize what she said. She's, first of all, expressed her appreciation for being invited to this forum. She's talked about the fact that her foundation indeed does focus on child and maternal mortality, and how this is because the reason why she went into this is because Guinea is a country which has very high rates of infant and maternal mortality. She's also talked about the fact that they are indeed focused on HIV and AIDS, and at that point she's asking me to kindly repeat my question. So, Your Excellency, what I said was, if you could please share with us the work you've done in your agency, especially with regards to HIV and AIDS.
Effectivement, donc depuis le mois de février 2011, nous avons créé cette fondation qui s'appuie donc sur l'information, la sensibilisation des jeunes femmes qui tombent enceintes afin qu'elles se fassent consulter au niveau médical pour savoir prévenir en fin de compte les difficultés qu'elles peuvent y avoir, parce que il y a la majorité des zones en Guinée sont enclavées et sans médecin. Effectivement, il y a des femmes qui se passent donc de médecins ou de sages-femmes et qui accouchent seules. Et en cas de difficulté, tout le monde peut deviner l'affaire. Alors, à la Fondation, nous avons apporté notre appui en construisant 5 centres de santé au niveau de ces zones enclavées. Nous avons aussi, avec l'apport d'une association internationale, apporté des motos-ambulances aux femmes, aux centres de santé reculés, afin que les femmes en état de famille puissent être évacuées jusqu'au centre d'accouchement. Nous avons observé que ça tient à peu de choses. En fait, pour réduire ce taux élevé de mortalité maternelle, il suffirait d'informer les femmes et les consultations, minimum 4 consultations lorsqu'elles sont en état de famille. Donc, nous nous appuyons sur l'information, la sensibilisation. Par rapport à la santé de la population, le gouvernement a mis en place la mutualisation des soins de santé. Et ce qu'il faut pour cela, c'est par corporation, amener les personnes à suivre, à cotiser et à se faire rembourser. Parce que nous savons qu'en Afrique, le coût des médicaments coûte extrêmement cher. Comment réduire ce coût des médicaments? Peut-être que les politiciens ou les hommes d'affaires, les opérateurs économiques, il faudrait peut-être construire des industries de fabrique de médicaments, avoir de grands laboratoires pour que le coût du médicament, quitte à fabriquer des génériques, pour que le coût baisse. Par rapport au VIH, SIDA, j'ai intégré l'Association des premières dames d'Afrique de lutte contre le VIH. Et le slogan, c'est qu'aucune femme ne meurt en donnant la vie et qu'aucun enfant ne soit contaminé par le virus du VIH. Donc, à la Fondation Prosmi, nous avons un volet PTME pour venir en aide à ces femmes-là avec une organisation privée, DREAM, qui se trouve à Conakry. Nous faisons en sorte que les femmes qui sont séropositives suivent un traitement afin que le virus ne contamine l'enfant. Au niveau de la jeunesse, nous passons dans les écoles, les lycées, informer d'abord les enfants, les sensibiliser, les pousser à se faire dépister et connaître d'abord son statut et ensuite faire en sorte d'éviter la contamination. Donc, tout passe par l'information, la sensibilisation, l'éducation. Et nous avons un programme Educaso pour sensibiliser les lycéens sur les maladies sexuellement transmissibles. Donc, ce programme est toujours en cours là où je vous parle. Nous passons dans les lycées et maintenant ils sont au niveau des communes pour informer non seulement les jeunes lycéens, mais les jeunes tout court à comment éviter les maladies sexuellement transmissibles. Je vous en prie. Donc voilà en gros ramasser ce que nous faisons en Guinée.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So if I will just try to explain what Her Excellency's Foundation has been doing. Basically what they do is they carry out, again, a lot of programs. They try to educate the women. They go to schools to educate children on the importance of knowing their HIV status. They also are in partnership with some private organizations to buy ambulances, so that they can evacuate women and make it possible for them to gain access to better health care. They also, one thing she mentioned that the government does is, apparently they've come up with some sort of scheme where the people contribute money, such that due to the high cost of health care, it's a scheme whereby they contribute money, and therefore when they need to, it must be some type of health insurance scheme, so they contribute money, and when they do need access to health care, it's at their fingertips. So she just restates the importance of enlightening people in HIV and AIDS, knowing their HIV and AIDS status, the importance of, they try to provide medication to pregnant women to reduce the transmission of HIV and AIDS to the infant children. So basically her foundation is doing a lot of work in this space. And we all know the importance of this because we're all here, we all saw the scourge of the HIV and AIDS epidemic in the last century, and we've come a long way with this. So this is one important aspect that her foundation is tackling. in which we've said here that Africa is a continent where more than almost 70% of our population are under 30 years. And her foundation is doing what it can to ensure that we protect this group of our population, to ensure that we protect the young ones, going to the schools, they're educating the children, and in this way, they're preserving and ensuring that we're able to protect the manpower that we need for this economic transformation of Africa. So thank you very much, Your Excellency, for all the work you're doing in your foundation. So I mentioned that we will go to the issue of policies, and Her Excellency mentioned something on government intervention again. So I think I want to, at this point, address Gilles Carbonnier, and let me just briefly tell you a bit about him. So Gilles Carbonnier is a professor. His expertise lies in international cooperation and the connection between natural resources and economic development. He's frequently referred to as a humanitarian economist. And so I would like to ask him, so from your experience, your diverse experience in the private and public sectors and academia, could you please tell us how we can harmonize health and economic policies? How can we get our ministries to work together to come up with complementary policies to improve health indices in Africa?
Madam Chair, Dr. Elumelu, Excellencies, First Ladies, dear African entrepreneurs, ladies and gentlemen, standing on all existing protocol, I propose to address directly the question on policies and roles of the government and others, but maybe from the point of view of my own organization, the International Committee of the Red Cross. For those of you who are not familiar, it's a humanitarian organization that is doing impartial, neutral, independent humanitarian action, mainly in armed conflicts or in other situations of armed violence. We are now 19,000 people working across the globe, but over half of our operations, half of our investments is in Africa. And a lot of it is in the health sector, so it's quite important, the question that you raised, to see how we can work with the state, with the private sector, with academia, to try to bring innovative solutions. And actually, since we are a frontline organization, we are working with affected communities in protracted crisis. And being with the communities, sometimes what we see as the main problem is what we call the first mile. The first mile for affected people to access health services. And often when I listen to other organizations, they see it as the last mile to reach patients and try to provide health. And I think we can complement each other very well. And to do this, I think the state has to provide a regulatory environment that is conducive to productive partnership. And of course, the state has to put the resources, to the extent possible, the resources required. But then the private sector and academia, together with humanitarian and development organizations, they have each of them a lot to bring. And I want to illustrate this with one example from Nigeria. We have 2 years ago started a partnership with the Adamawa Primary Health Care Development Agency, and together with an academic institution, the Swiss Institute of Tropical and Public Health in Basel, Tropical Medicine and Public Health. And we have elaborated an algorithm that can go into a tablet that allows primary healthcare workers to put a diagnostics rapidly, accurately on acute child illnesses. And the idea is to have people working in primary healthcare in the Adamawa state. Now we are reaching close to 200 primary healthcare. We are moving up to soon over 400 primary healthcare that are equipped with that algorithm, which we call the algorithm for the management of acute children illnesses. And it allows to detect and then posit a diagnostics which is accurate, and it then gives to the health worker the recommendation for the drugs to be administered, where these drugs could be available, good quality. And we have seen through impact evaluation that this contributes to a dramatic drop. In another country, we reach 60% drop in infant mortality rate, but we have also a drop in the intake of antibiotics when it's not needed, and it reduces resistance to antibiotics. So we are rolling out this, and we still are looking for investors to support us with this expansion, and this is where philanthropists, investors can bring a lot also in terms of supporting and being partners with us, not only the state. So this is an example, I think, where different actors are bringing their own expertise, their own value added, and we can really make a difference. And this, I think, is just one example where we see that this is necessary, but that said, it doesn't resolve all the issues. We still need to invest also in capacity building, and we have a network of traditional birth attendants that is working within the communities and is able to refer pregnant women to primary health care when needed. And I think if I just compare this with our partnership with the Tony Elumelu Foundation, which we are very glad and proud about, this has allowed us also to identify a doctor, in that case, in Delta State, an entrepreneur, to equip him with better diagnostics instruments in order to have ultrasound scanning techniques, also to help pregnant women diagnose early on any difficult pregnancy, and the uptake in terms of patients coming and being advised is just stellar. And I think that I would like to take this opportunity to thank and congratulate the Tony Elumelu Foundation, those who have been working on that, and also my colleagues here in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles. So I think it's very interesting how he mentioned how we've listened to our last session was on technology. So it's fantastic to see how technology is playing a role even in the healthcare sector. This algorithm that he talks about, it's very impressive, reducing infant mortality by 60%. And we heard in the beginning how even a 1% increase in life expectancy, 1 year increase in life expectancy can improve the GDP by 0.1%. So I think this is very fantastic to hear. Thank you very much. And we look forward to more ways in which technology can help to assist healthcare and, in the same vein, economic development. So I think my next question goes to Her Excellency, the First Lady of Mali, Madam Keita Maïga. She's been the First Lady of Mali for some years now, and worthy of note, what I'd like to particularly mention here is that in 2017, at the Africa-France Summit, she hosted an event for First Ladies, which was aimed at moving the reproductive health agenda forward for young people across Africa. And in addition to this, she's also had several initiatives targeted at improving healthcare outcomes in her country. So, Your Excellency, please, if you could please share with us some of the initiatives you've had, and at the same time, what you think we can do to continue to increase the political will and to keep healthcare on the front burner of our African governments, and therefore to increase allocation in healthcare. So basically, what initiatives you've done and how we can continue to keep the issue of healthcare on the front burner for concerning our African governments. Your Excellency, Madame Keiga.
Merci beaucoup. Comme ma sœur de Guinée, je voudrais remercier la Fondation pour nous avoir invités, ainsi que son président, à cet événement important pour toute l'Afrique. Remercier la Première Dame du Nigeria pour l'accueil chaleureux qui nous a été réservé à moi et à ma délégation. Je voudrais saluer tous les panélistes, saluer ma sœur Jenny, saluer les participants, la presse, vous qui êtes là et que vous qui serez certainement les relais pour tout ce qui sera fait ici. Et moi, je dirige une ONG, je n'ai pas de fondation, je dirige une ONG depuis plus de 20 ans, agir pour l'environnement et la qualité de la vie. Je sais que quand je parle d'environnement et qu'on me voit dans la santé, on se dit, mais pourquoi l'environnement et vous êtes dans la santé? Je dis, je vois l'environnement dans sa globalité. Donc il y a l'environnement en tant qu'environnement, il y a la biodiversité, mais il y a également l'environnement sanitaire, culturel, social, économique, et que si on ne les considère pas, l'environnement tout court n'avance pas. Voilà, donc c'est vrai que en marge du sommet Afrique-France en janvier 2017 à Bamako, j'avais convié mes sœurs pour qu'on se penche un peu sur la santé sexuelle reproductive des adolescents. Et en essayant d'aller dans les traditions positives, les pratiques traditionnelles positives qui militent en faveur de la santé sexuelle. Parce que tout simplement, de par ma petite expérience, c'est vrai que beaucoup est fait, beaucoup est dit, mais souvent on n'arrive pas à atteindre l'objectif, peut-être parce que ceux vers qui nous allons n'arrivent pas à prendre ce que nous leur donnons, ce que nous leur disons. Donc j'ai dit il faut absolument qu'on aille dans ce sens-là, parce qu'en plus la santé sexuelle reproductive des adolescents englobe tout. Parce qu'il va parler de la santé maternelle et infantile, il va parler des MST, il va parler des mariages forcés, il va parler des mutilations, il va parler de l'environnement, il va parler comment on appelle ça encore, bon, les mots m'échappent, j'ai dit mariage précoce, les mariages forcés. Et donc, quelque part, il fallait y aller. Donc, juste après cette réunion, nous, en tout cas au Mali, nous avons, avec l'apport de la Banque mondiale Suède et avec le FNUA, nous avons constitué une équipe de chercheurs pour qu'ils aillent entreprendre cette étude pour faire, si on veut, un répertoire de toutes les pratiques positives qui existent au Mali. Et il avait été demandé également aux autres premières dames de faire en sorte qu'ils aient ce répertoire-là parce que ça peut aider. Nous avons approché plus de 500 leaders religieux et leaders de la société civile pour leur parler de ce problème. Parce que comme vous le savez, tout ce qui touche le sexe, en tout cas dans un pays comme le Mali, c'est un peu tabou. Donc il faut que dans leur prêche, chaque fois qu'ils approchent quelqu'un, qu'ils puissent en parler, en discuter. Parce que tout simplement, ces jeunes, ces adolescents sont les papas et les mamans de demain. Donc si déjà ils ont conscience de leur corps, ils ont conscience de ce qu'ils peuvent attraper comme maladie, ils ont conscience de ce qu'ils peuvent courir comme problème quand ils se marient jeunes, je pense que c'est très important. Donc pour appuyer également ce programme, nous avons développé un système de centre de vie solaire. Donc en direction des écoles où on va parler de la santé sexuelle des adolescents, mais également on va apprendre l'informatique, on va développer des petites rencontres entre jeunes pour parler de leurs problèmes. Nous avons également initié un programme d'installation d'infirmerie dans les écoles. Au Mali, il y en a, je dirais, presque plus. Avant, ça existait. Et nous pensons qu'en installant des infirmeries, un jeune qui va à l'infirmerie, c'est l'occasion ou jamais pour l'attraper, pour lui parler de sida, pour lui parler de mariage précoce, pour lui parler de beaucoup de choses qui concernent sa santé, mais aussi son avenir. Il y a un domaine auquel je m'intéresse beaucoup parce que ça, c'est la planification familiale, le contrôle des naissances. Nous le savons, lorsque nous avons une natalité galopante, surtout dans nos pays, ça n'aide pas pour le développement. Mais nous savons aussi que dans notre société, il faut faire des enfants. En Europe, on dit que la couche du riche n'est pas fertile et que c'est la couche du pauvre qui est fertile. Mais chez nous, la couche du riche et la couche du pauvre sont fertiles. Donc, dans un pays, c'est vrai, un pays comme le mien où c'est très grand, on a besoin de monde. Mais en fait, bon, lorsque vous avez beau avoir des milliards, si vous avez 30 gosses, il est très difficile en ce monde-là aujourd'hui, pas avant, mais le monde que nous vivons aujourd'hui, pour se développer, pour que les enfants réussissent, etc. Donc nous sommes un peu dans tous les domaines. Nous avons créé des centres de formation pour filles déscolarisées par rapport aux métiers innovants, par exemple l'informatique, parce que nous savons que les filles, souvent, tout de suite, ils font ou la couture ou la coiffure. Et nous les installons avec des structures de l'État comme appui financier. Bon, voilà en gros, après l'engagement des premières dames, ce que nous avons pu faire. Il y a beaucoup d'autres choses, mais je pense que c'est un peu ça. Maintenant, je ne sais pas si vous aviez posé une deuxième question concernant la politique gouvernementale, etc. Je ne me rappelle plus très bien. Merci.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So Her Excellency was just telling us all the things she's been doing, saying she has an NGO that's focused on the environment, and also bringing up the fact that she had this convening of the African First Ladies where they principally address sexual health issues of teenage girls, and how they set up clinics in schools and carry out outreach programs educating girls, and how she says how it's very funny that it's generally believed that the poor are the ones who have a lot of children who are fertile and the rich are not very fertile, and how they go about. She's very particular and passionate about family planning, because we really don't want situations where people are having excessive amounts of children who turn out not to contribute anything economically to the continent. Instead, just have a negative impact on the economy. So thank you very much, Your Excellency. And she also wanted to know what she had to say about policy, or if she should deal with that later. I think we'll come back to that later, so that we give the last speaker a chance to talk, because I think we're fast running out of time. And this is Olimata Sa. She is the Regional Director, United Nations Women. So very quickly, what I think is, because we hear she's United Nations Women, and as you know, this is the United Nations entity for gender equality and empowerment of women. So I think what we would actually like to hear from you, Olimata, is how you can maybe help us to see the correlation between the achievements in healthcare and women's economic empowerment.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm delighted to be here. And if you allow me, I will quickly set the stage for the young people who are in the room. In 1995, there was the largest gathering of women around the world. 46,000 women gathered in Beijing in 1995. And further to that large gathering, there was 12 critical points of action that were defined. One of them was access to health. Some of you might recall there was a very famous speech from Hillary Clinton saying, "Women's rights are human rights." We fast forward in September 2015. The world agrees on an agenda, the Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals. I always say when I'm given the mic that the most important goal to remember is number 5. And number 5 is gender equality and women empowerment, because none of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals can be achieved without number 5. The close second would be 17. Yes, at least somebody agrees. Women in the room, do you agree? We cannot reach, development and transformation without the women of Africa. The close second in terms of SDG would be SDG number 17, which is partnership. In order to bring about change, we need a coalition. I listened to all the sessions since morning, and I think all the sessions had a common thread. And the common threads are those 5 things you need to bring transformation. One is you need to address issues of policy. What are the things you need to change on the law, and what can government do about that? The second issue a lot of people address on all the panels is the issue of skills. The third issue that was talked about is financing, access to finance. The fourth one was access to market. Last one would be infrastructure, energy, water, roads, infrastructure. And the common thread of all of that from all the conversations since morning is technology as an enabler. How can we use technology to go to scale, to have a much wider reach? I want to segue into that, into women economic empowerment, because we are convinced that an empowered woman addresses issues of poverty, issues of education, issues of health. She's able to master her reproductive rights when she has money. Entrepreneurship in the area of health is growing, especially with technology, and I will share with you 2 examples. One woman entrepreneur we met from Cameroon has developed a database of blood banks. And as most of you will know, the poster child of a person that dies because of lack of blood is a woman that just gave birth. So that young lady from Cameroon started a company that allows for people to know which blood type is available where in the country in terms of availability, and it allows to go straight for it and get it delivered. We thought that that was really innovation, using data technology as an enabler. She won last year the Cartier Women Initiative Awards, which is a $100,000 prize, and we are very proud of her. The second innovation that we came across was in the health sector was in Kenya. In Kenya, you have quite a few ambulances from hospitals and private clinics that are parked. And today, if you have an issue, you have to call several companies to be able to access an ambulance. And a young Kenyan lady came up with an idea of having really a single point where at any given time, if you have an emergency, when you call that number, they have a mapping of all the ambulances that are on standby in Nairobi. So we believe that women, and especially entrepreneurs, you play a key role in terms of solutions, in terms of scale, in terms of gender equality. But I will end my statement, because I have the mic, with the men. You know, in UN Women, a few years back, we realized that we have been doing our advocacy alone. For the longest time, the women of this world had to push doors to get a seat at the table. And I think there's a major change in our approach happen when we realize that you guys, you men, are our champions. You are our he for she, we call you. And tomorrow we have quite a few presidents that are coming that are actually he for she. The President Macky Sall is a he for she, the President Kagame is a he for she. So the idea is that we need strong men to stand with us and say, I stand by my sister, I stand by my daughter, I stand by my wife. Because those are the men that are going to move the needle with us in terms of gender equality and women empowerment.
Thank you very much. So I think we've taken a bit of time. We weren't able to go into as much as we could, but unfortunately we need to make time for the entrepreneurs to ask a few questions. I think it's not over, but ending with the last speaker, I think it's particularly important here to mention that this is something that even the foundation takes very importantly. I don't know if we all know, but then when this program started this is our 5th year anyway, we had just over 20% of female entrepreneurs. And now this year, with over 200,000 applicants, we have over 40% female entrepreneurs. And so I I think I'll open the floor up to questions now. And I'm scanning the room for a female hand, so we continue that thread of female empowerment. But I don't see one. Okay.
She's right there.
In front of me? Oh, there's one right here, please. Oh, I think they've given the mic to the lady over there, sorry.
Good day, I'm Dorothy Njomanze. I'm a filmmaker and I pretty much link lifestyle to human rights using the entertainment media. So particularly, the issue of women empowerment will not be complete if we don't address child marriage, and it's a big scourge. So the issue of policies that keep our children safe, so that our children are not seen as women, will continue being on the front burners. And it would be wonderful if we can get strong commitments, especially from the government-related people here, to help us ensure that child marriage is treated as crimes everywhere, so that we treat children as children and women as women. Thank you.
I'll just address that very quickly before we move on, and then we'll take more. So thank you very much for that. As a matter of fact, when Her Excellency, the First Lady of Mali, was talking, she mentioned that one of the things they focus on is child marriages. So I'm sure, and then she also wanted to comment on policies. So in order to save time, I will not actually give her the floor to respond, but I just want to say that it is indeed very important that, especially as you said, the people in government here, First Ladies, everybody in government, First Lady of Mali has already mentioned it's an issue for them. So please, as we go back, let's see how we can bring this into policy and ensure, continue to do the good work that we're doing and ensure that these issues are dealt with and are, eradicated completely. So if we have another comment or question.
Afternoon. I'm from the WBFA Foundation. My name is Deborah. So I wanted to hop on the subject of cultural environment. I don't know if that would be the right translation from what Son Excellence Madame Keita talked about. But I think it's extremely important. It's extremely important to realize that in Africa, yes, it's true, we need infrastructure and we do need hospitals and obviously funds, but it's extremely important to realize that we have a lack of information as well. Like women, of course, don't know what's going on with their body. They don't have access to hygiene. They don't have access to information about hygiene. And I think that is a lot of what is killing women, especially speaking of maternal and infantile mortality. I think there needs to be a focus on knowledge about mortality and health before infrastructure and any of that stuff, and data collection and being able to relay this information to women in general. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So another one, where do we have the mics? We need a man this time, please. Where's the mic? Is there a mic near this gentleman? He's been raising his hand for a while. The gentleman standing, yes, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellencies, ma'ams and sirs. My name is Peterson, aka the irregular migrant. I am the young man that walked literally to Europe 20 years ago on my feet. And I'm happy that our Excellency here started this discussion based on the fact that irregular migration, human trafficking, and the present scourge that we've got in the country or in the continent at the moment, which is the youth not wanting to work, the youth sitting back and waiting to harvest from where they haven't sown, what we locally call Yahoo Yahoo. These are vices that are decimating the youth populace. As a young kid 20 years ago, I had the opportunity to have a Tony Elumelu Foundation to empower me. This was one of the forces that drove me into seeking the greener pastures. So I thought that there was a greener pasture overseas. For 2 years, I had languished in the deserts until I made it across the waters into Europe. Started hanging out with the wrong crowds and got introduced into the life of crime, which we now know as Yahoo Yahoo. But today, I have taken it upon me. I've taken full responsibility, and I'm taking charge to change the narrative. To that effect, I did a book about my experience, all I had gone through, how in the desert I had become a doctor. When one of the young girls that was traveling in my entourage had gone into labor, everyone in my entourage had run away, but I stood with her, helped her bring to the world a young boy named Tyson, 20 years ago. After then, I don't know where they are today, but I'm hoping with time, I'll get reunited with them. So, ma'am, representing Her Excellency, our mother, the mother of Nigeria, I've been trying to get my book around to schools to teach the youth, because that's basically the work I've taken upon myself now, to teach the youth how to live right. This is a personal contract. It is driven by passion. Okay. Like before you were called upstage, the MC was saying something about how she almost goofed at an event, and that became a business for her. I'm using this dark moment. This is the darkest moment of my life. I'm leveraging upon it. I get sticks thrown at me. People laugh at me. They insult me. But I don't really care.
Thank you very much.
Growing up, we were taught in school, ma'am, just to let you guys know that there's no limit to what you can be and what you can become. The highest I've got as a school educational qualification is O levels. Secondary school, that's the highest I've gone to. While growing up, we were taught with the Eze Goes to Schools, Ali and Simbi, Mr. Edet lives in Calabar.
If you don't mind, sorry,
ma'am,
I might have to cut you short so we give other people a chance to talk. But your experiences are noted, and we will contact you in the foundation to ensure that we put you in touch with whoever you need to be put in touch with. Thank you very much. So if we can take another question. Any microphone on this side? But can we have someone? What country are you from? I think we need
Nigeria.
I don't mean to discriminate against you, but I see a foreign flag. Let's give our visitors a chance, please, to ask some questions. Then if we have time, we'll come back to you. There was a flag in the back, please. Let's be gracious to hosts.
Good afternoon, everyone. Her Excellencies, my name is Anas Abubakar, and I come from Chad. I would like first to thank the Tony Mali Foundation for giving us the opportunity to be here. And I want to use this opportunity to thank the UNDP Chad for giving us the opportunity to attend this forum by paying our expenses. I have actually an enterprise, which is Edugalite. I work in order to promote gender equality through education. I happen to have 6 sisters who didn't have the opportunity to further their education for religious reasons. Meanwhile, religiously, it is said that women can work in the medical sector and save lives and do a lot of good things. Now, my question is, given that I have the opportunity to see Her Excellencies here, how were you able to make it in this environment, be it in African communities, be it in Muslim or Christian community? Being a girl is a sign of, is a guarantee that of failure. You will not be able to go to school. How did you make it to succeed? And what advice do you have to give to us in order to encourage parents to let their girls or women to further their education and change their lives and communities? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So we'll take another question before we see if we can get one of our first ladies to respond to that. So please, the gentleman. Gentleman here. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. My question is directed to the DG of the WHO. My name is Chima Daniel, ETF candidate of the 2019. And I really want to appreciate this foundation for what they've done in our lives as entrepreneurs. Okay, my question, during the presentation, so thank you for your presentation, sir. Thank you very much. During your presentation, you made mention of the fact that in Africa, that the best investment we have is in our young people. And actually, I think that is why we are here as entrepreneurs. Now, you discover that when it comes to the health sector, we're talking about capital intensive. In Africa, you can't, probably the hospitals and all that, you see, it's really capital intensive. So you see, a lot of persons cannot just venture into the health sector because of what they think the expense is all about. One, the facilities and all that. Even the government facilities we have is still poor. We have persons, like the hospitals don't have all it takes to cater for the needs of the sick ones. So my question is, now, what are first of all, are there policies in place in the World Health that the African entrepreneurs can leverage upon to bridge this gap? Now, if there exist these policies, what are they, and how can African entrepreneurs key into this and also have, a place? Since we are talking about Africa capitalists, we can key into this, leverage upon it, and not just depend on, the government and, sources from probably how we can tackle the capital intensive issue and also bridge the gap in our health sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're almost out of time, so we'll take the responses to those two questions, and then if we still have more time, we can take more questions. So if I can call on First Lady, representative of Her Excellency, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, to respond to that. How, as a woman, especially a woman in the environment you grew up in, with all the challenges we know that women face, how were you able to achieve and attain this height that you've been able to attain?
Thank you very much. I come from a very liberal family. I'm a Muslim, but my parents are very liberal. My dad did not go to school, neither did my mom go to school. But they felt it's important that both the girl child and the boy child should all attain some certain level of education. So my dad was all out to see that all of us, the 10 of us, all get the basic secondary school education. Unfortunately for all of us...
This has been a live broadcast of the plenary session at the 2019 Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Forum on the role of healthcare in economic transformation.
On the less privileged, at least we're educating people that are not able to sponsor them.
This is a